Welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for January 21st, 2020. It's our first meeting of this calendar year. I'll first start with a roll call, starting to my left.
Brenda Hamstead.
Hodge Patel.
Todd Chernick.
Jason Cole.
Kim Keller.
For the record, make note that Don Kurt is absent this evening, and we do have one vacant position. The individual has not been sworn in yet and should join us next month. Item number 3 is to move forward with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In light of the roll call this evening, I would move to make an amendment to tonight's agenda, and that would be, my motion would be to move item 9B, which is the voting of our chair and vice chair for 2020, to our next scheduled BZA meeting, so we have a broader attendance and input for that vote. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor in moving item 9B to our next scheduled meeting, say aye. Aye. Those who oppose also say aye. That motion passed unanimous. Make a motion to adopt the amended agenda for this evening.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of adopting the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passed unanimous. Item number 5 on our agenda is approval of our December meeting minutes. All those in attendance were here for the December meeting. I make a motion to approve those meeting minutes as published.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approval for the December meeting minutes, say aye. Aye. That motion also passed unanimous. The Board of Zoning Appeals is a quasi-judicial board comprised of resident volunteers of the City of Milton. The board is charged with hearing requests for variances from the standards of the zoning ordinance and appeals of administrative determination. With regard to decisions on primary variances, the board's basis for decision is provided by these 4 considerations. Relief, if granted, would not offend the spirit or intent of the ordinance. And B, there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create an unnecessary hardship due to size, shape, or topography, or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions not caused by the variance applicant. And C, relief, if granted, would not cause a substantial detriment to the public good in surrounding properties. And D, that the public safety, health, and welfare are secured and that substantial justice is done. With that, I'd ask staff to please introduce item V19-013, 980 Birmingham Road.
All right, so just to refresh the board, this case was heard in the December meeting. The applicant was asked to meet with staff to see if there was any kind of alternate things we can do with him. He did meet with staff, and he did take down the sign that was going to be requested for the variance, and I do believe he wishes to withdraw his application from this. Staff still recommends denial if he does not withdraw, so that's how staff is standing on this case.
Okay, would the applicant please come forward? If you would, please announce your name and address for the record. For everyone's benefit, these meetings are recorded as well as video broadcast for the record.
My name is Kyle Barden. My wife and I own the Milton Athletic Club. Address is 980 Birmingham Road, Suite 811. Cody, could you please show me whatever I need to know for projector? Thanks, sir. Thanks, everybody, for your time. So what are we doing here? I'd like to take a few minutes to summarize the problem because I think it's important that we're actually talking about the same thing. Technically, we're here because the existing sign ordinance for Birmingham Village is insufficient and impractical. Therefore, to stay alive, I was forced to put up my own sign. We have 2 signs in a complex of about 25 businesses, and yet these 2 signs only represent 4 businesses. Can we zoom out? So these are our 2 signs, about 25 businesses. Publix is represented, SunTrust, State Farm, and I love New York Pizza. I am by far the largest tenant in this complex besides Publix. Now, and I don't have a sign. Now compare this sign to the signage across the street that has about a third of the amount of businesses that our complex has. Does that make any sense to anybody? But whereas on the surface we're talking about sign ordinance, really the essence of what we're talking about is whether Milton, we collectively, want the Milton Athletic Club and other businesses to exist in this community. Throughout this process, what has baffled and frustrated me the most is the gradual realization of how vehemently a small handful of people have opposed this sign. The 4 people that I'm aware of that so strongly oppose us have spent countless hours fuming, complaining, bombarding City Hall with emails and phone calls. Yet not a single one has had the common courtesy to come by the club, say, Kyle, I don't like this sign, but we're going to figure out something that does. Not a single person. It seems that this tiny but very loud and powerful minority is more concerned with sign code and local control than they are with what our business brings to this community. You don't have to agree with me, and I'm completely okay with that.
1 minute.
Sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Could we please not approach the staff during the middle of a presentation?
I was trying to make a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
There is, the floor is with the applicant right now. We'll have public comment if needed.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry about that. Please proceed.
So I'm okay if I'm not agreed with. Leonard Jackett doesn't agree with my sign either. But he came to me and he said, Kyle, that sign's got to go. But I'm going to work with you to find a solution that does work for everybody. That's the kind of neighbor that I want. I feel that if you guys that oppose me were truly here to serve the community, then you would take the time to figure out what the community thinks on this issue. Because I found that the majority either really likes this sign or they don't care. Some of you argue that I don't have a hardship. And you can say that all you want, but the fact of the matter is, I clearly do. Over half of our members were completely unaware of us before I put this sign up. I have dozens of emails here attesting to that fact, and the board has them all. And I'd be glad to share them with anybody. Businesses of different industries, different sizes, different locations have different challenges. Who here claims that I have no financial hardship? Somebody might, that's okay. None of those people have ever owned a gym. Do you guys have any idea what the attrition rate of a gym is? The average attrition rate is 30%, the same as the cable industry, which is horrendous. We cannot achieve growth without a sign. It's a fact. This sign has been our #1 form of member growth since I put it up. I'm not sure what the exact legal definition of a hardship is, but ask any business person, and that's as hard as a hardship comes. We're not some corporate gym that you guys are, to me, almost attempting to run out of town. We're locally owned and operated. My parents have lived a mile down the road from the gym for 20 years. We go to church 3 miles down the road at Antioch Christian Church. My wife and I have tons of family members within a 10-mile radius of our gym. So by your actions, you're running your own neighbors out of town. I'm not sure whether or not it's personal for the people that oppose me, but it can't help to not be personal for us. We have 3 babies, 3 and under. We have trainers here, and the trainers have families. And most importantly, this opposition is doing harm to our members, who would gladly tell you the importance of our gym family and what it's done for them. I'm frustrated, I guess, because it seems like this tiny group has such a narrow focus on the law rather than on the good our club is doing. So let me ask you a question. Is man meant to serve law, or is law meant to serve man? Or let me ask you another question. At the end of the day, who is it that enables our laws, our freedoms, our liberties to exist? Who? Soldiers. Has anybody that opposed me in this sign served in war? I served in 2. I graduated from West Point in 2001. I became an airborne ranger, and I basically went straight into conflict. I've been to Kosovo, Tunisia, Iraq, Afghanistan. And what do I have to show for it? I have a couple of bronze stars. I have memories I don't care for. I have a 70% disability rating with the VA. So perhaps you can imagine how frustrating it is when you guys wield the law as a tool against the good we're trying to do. We're not to be blind guardians of the law. We're supposed to be good stewards of it. Law is meant to serve man. We've made 27 amendments to the Constitution today. So please don't get up here and argue that we can't have a sign just because the code says so. Rather, let's change the code to fit the collective need. We do it all the time. We did it for Curtis Mills, who opposed me. We changed the code to give him a dozen variances for Matildas. The community loves Matildas. I think that was a great thing to do. Good code change. Perhaps the current Birmingham Village sign code worked in the past, but based on the problems emanating from this complex over the last decade, clearly they're not working now. I'm not the first person to bring this up. My opposers criticize me because I put my sign up without permission. And that's true, I did, but not without trying my hardest to get permission. The first thing I did was come to get a sign permit for the previous gym sign, which was allowed by the city. I got denied because of the new development going in. So I went back to the landlord. I said, I need to be on the monument sign because I'm the biggest tenant besides Publix. Denied. I went back to the city. I said, I need a sign variance. I need to put up a sign. Angela Rambeau said, college, they're not going to give you a variance. So why would I spend the time, the money, the energy, the effort when I just launched a business to pursue a dead end? So I had to put up a sign. Our mission is to serve this community. And if I have to choose between putting up an unapproved sign or failing our community, I'm going to put up the sign. And I'm sorry if that offended a few people. I am. But this process is broken. And supposedly this community's been trying to fix it for over a decade, and it's still not fixed. You guys complain that I'm against code because my sign was a lollipop sign, and it wasn't on the Milton-approved monument sign. How come you didn't fight so hard against this brand real estate sign, which has been up for way longer than mine? Whereas we're a blessing to the community, doing good, this company doesn't do anything. I haven't seen this guy in over a year and a half. He literally sends me tenants to show vacant spaces. I saw one last week. I had to show him a vacant photography place upstairs. I don't mind. I'm trying to serve our little village to get it filled. But how come nobody's complained about this sign? There's 2 of them up, one at each entrance. Yet mine sign's been up 6 months, and people are going crazy. I don't get that. I want to make one thing very clear. My wife and I own this club 100%, and our fight for this sign has nothing to do with profits. We opened this gym because we wanted to be a blessing. I had a very successful finance career before this. I took a 90% pay cut to open this gym. I'll never make the kind of money I made in finance, and I'm completely okay with that because we love what we do. My wife got into fitness about 10 years ago after her stepmother died in her 50s because of poor health habits. My wife immediately quit her career and went into the fitness career in order to help people avoid the same path. Not many people know this, but a quarter mile up the gym in the Green Cemetery, owned by one of our members, is where her stepmother's buried. So this sign, this business has nothing to do with profits, you guys. We're here to be a blessing, and I have 60 or 70 emails here that will attest to that. We've given free memberships, free nutrition, free therapeutic services that people couldn't afford it. I've given free stuff to teachers. I've given free stuff to preachers. I've given free stuff to all kinds of people. I'd give everything for free if we had that ability. So it's incredibly disheartening when I have to fight to stay viable because a handful of people think this stupid old sign is more important than what we're doing for the community. Bill and his wife Lisa have been with us almost since the inception. They will both tell you it's been life-changing. Kevin Casey, he's a member of our club, along with his wife and 3 kids. Kevin, how many pounds have you lost in 7 months?
60.
We saved him from type 2 diabetes, heart disease, depression, who knows what else. Josh Morris, he lost 50 pounds in our club in less than a year. His email's right here, and I quote, Kyle and Cameron do so much for the community. I'd be glad to educate them on how I lost 50 pounds, and Kyle saved my life. We've lost thousands of pounds in our little club, giving people their energy back, their peace, their happiness, their strength, their sense of purpose. But it doesn't stop there. When we save somebody from an untimely death or sedentary life of pain and depression, just imagine the ripple effects on their spouses, their kids, other people in their lives. Well, let's look at one more measure of community satisfaction. Just compare our 5-star Google ratings with other local businesses. Joe, your practice has 2. Curtis Mills, Matilda's has about 30. Publix has 50. We have 91 5-star ratings and not a single rating less than 5 stars. That's about the same as Scottsdale Farms, a quarter mile up the road from us, an amazing business, and they've been there 20 years longer than us.
Mr. Chairman, and I apologize, we have a 10-minute limit on presentations in support of applications. My understanding was this was to be a withdrawal. I've kind of indulged in determining where it was going. I don't know if this is going to be a request for withdrawal or not. If not, we have certainly reached the time limit. And
I thought the time limit was supposed to be on that clock.
It's not running.
Okay.
We didn't expect that
Okay.
you were going to be running this long, but are you near wrapping up?
Yes, sir, I'll be done in literally 2 minutes. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. I'll cut to the chase. I think Milton should be proud of our work, not make it more difficult. The City of Milton mission statement says, through excellent service to our neighbors, we strengthen our cherished sense of the community. I would suggest that we accomplish that mission statement better than 98% of the businesses in Milton. But I'm not going to fight this fight anymore because it's diverting my attention away from our mission, which is to serve our community through health and fitness. So yes, I'm formally withdrawing my variance request. There's my good-looking sign. I've taken it down. I've been granted a temporary sign permit. I gladly adhere to its stipulations. Yet I imagine some of my opponents are going to fight me tooth and nail on that too. It seems like a few people would rather win the battle over the sign, which you guys have won, rather than the war of losing a beneficial business, having a dead shopping center that's been not at its full capacity ever, I don't think. You won the battle. I'm concerned that you're going to lose the war. Because if we can't find a permanent resolution to this sign problem, then when our lease is up next year, we're moving out of Milton because we can't exist without a sign. So I'm asking everybody here to solve the problem now once and for all. I know it's not to talk about it now, the new variance. It's officially to withdraw my variance. But in a 10-second clip, I suggest we make the current sign bigger because as it stands, this 32 square feet is not sufficient to accommodate the number of tenants. I'm working with Bob, I'm working with Cody to pass that through. Thanks, everybody, very much for your time.
Please. Given the applicant's formal request for withdrawal, I'd make a motion to accept this withdrawal without prejudice and without further presentation.
Second.
So with that, we could, with an approval of this motion, we would not move forward with the other proceedings, including public comment, given the formal withdrawal request. Just to make that clear for everyone here as well as the public.
And just for purposes of this board, I just want to make sure you're clear and you understand that you would not have the ability as this board to change the code or address any of those items mentioned in that presentation. You would only be allowed to address the variance that was originally presented and has been requested to be withdrawn.
Correct. So the motion is to accept this withdrawal without prejudice and without further presentation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passed unanimous. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, is V19-014-643 Glenover Drive. Staff, please present.
All right. Variance case number V19-014-643 Glenover Drive. The requested variance was to allow a pool, pool deck, and pool equipment to encroach into the 75-foot impervious setback. Section 20-426, subsection 2. Wow. The site is a 1.497 acre lot located in the White Column subdivision. It is zoned AG1 and is located in the Rural Milton overlay. The existing pool was constructed in 2005 and is encroached into the 75-foot impervious setback, 416 square feet. This case was originally heard at the December 17, 2019 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. After the applicant's presentation and the board's deliberation, the board recommended to defer the case to work with city staff to provide a site plan with less encroachment of the new pool. Section 20-426, subsection 2 states that an additional 25-foot impervious setback is required and adjacent to a stream. Since the applicant proposes to construct a pool, pool deck, and pool equipment in the 75-foot impervious setback, variance is required. Based on the revised site plan dated January 9th, 2020, the applicant has moved the proposed pool out of the 75-foot impervious setback. The existing pool, proposed pool deck, proposed pool equipment, and proposed retaining wall is encroaching into the 75-foot impervious setback, which requires a variance. The comments from the Design Review Board on December 3rd, 2019 did not change. Let's see. The staff response. The applicant worked with staff to revise the site plan to have the proposed pool have the least amount of encroachment into the 75-foot impervious setback. The applicant proposes the new pool out of the 75-foot impervious setback and have only the retaining wall into the setback. The applicant is requesting at this meeting to legalize the portion of the existing pool, proposed pool deck, and proposed pool equipment that will be located in the 75-foot impervious setback, which is Exhibit A. If the board should choose to approve the variance, one of the conditions would be to make the proposed pool deck be constructed of pervious pavers. The applicant has demonstrated that there are such extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions pertaining to this lot that the literal or strict application of the ordinance would create a necessary hardship, since the need for this variance is having the existing pool, proposed pool deck, and pool equipment in the 75-foot impervious setback and not caused by the applicant. Allowing the existing pool, proposed pool deck, and pool equipment in the 75-foot impervious setback will not cause harm. Public safety, health, and welfare will be secured, and substantial justice will be done for the surrounding properties. Staff recommends approval of this request.
Are there any questions for staff? None? Okay, if the applicant would please come forward, announce your name and address for the record, please. And I'd also ask staff to please get the drawing up on the visual, the site plan.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ashley Barton. I'm here on behalf of Georgia Classic Pool and the homeowners Kim Peppers and Russ Ayers. Address is 643 Glenover Drive. So as you know, we were here last month. The homeowner does have a current pool, pool deck, and pool equipment that do encroach into a 75-foot impervious setback. That's existing, which is what we do wish to legalize today, the existing in the setback. After our last meeting, we did meet with the staff to come up with a new design to pull what we had in the setback and pull it out of the setback. So this is our new design after meeting with the staff. So we did get the entire pool out of the setback, and then we do have that retaining wall that just barely encroaches into the setback. And after, working with the design and Bob and Cody in the office, we felt like this was a good plan moving forward. And then, as he did mention, the only other portion is that small portion of the pool deck, which, as he suggested, pervious pavers.
Cody, can you help on that visual identify where the 75-foot impervious setback line runs through the project?
So I know it's kind of hard to tell.
Or actually, you can as well.
Sorry, so, right here, if you follow the pin, it's a little blue line. You can see it currently runs right there with the encroachment to the new pool, or the existing pool. And then it's right here. The new pool will be out of it.
Okay. So that little tail there, noted as a 3-foot wall, is part of what would be an encroaching as requested in the retaining wall. The legalizing the portion of the existing pool as well as the pool deck. However, it does look like you're proposing a new paver deck, pool deck?
The pervious
Pervious?
pavers. Yeah, there is a very small section that does still cut into the setback. Sorry, I'm pointing on the screen like, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we're taking some of that out, so it would really be just this little tiny, you can't, I don't know if you can see the line, there's just a sliver.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there more to your presentation?
No, I just, after meeting with them, I feel like the design we have looks good, and we tried our very best to get that out of the setback after our meeting last time, and so yeah, thank you for your time.
Well,
and
before you
yeah.
run off, I do have a question
Sure.
for both staff as well as yourself. Did you discuss any mitigation plans in terms of overflow from the pool, directing that to catch basins?
No,
Would that be part of the permitting process?
it would be, but you can also make it a condition, which is very normal. The board usually prompts
Okay.
that as a condition.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant or staff before we move to public comment? All right, you have a seat. You'll have a chance to make a closing comment after we have public comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for so far working with staff. As we move into public comment, we'll have a 10-minute period of total comment for those wishing to speak in favor, and followed by 10-minute portion in total for those interested in speaking in opposition. Do we have any public comment on this application? Cody?
I do not have any comment cards for this case.
Okay. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone from the public here willing or interested in speaking in opposition? Okay, so hearing and seeing no public comment, you do have an opportunity to make a closing comment before we will then close the public comment period and move into a motion. So the floor is yours for a closing if you'd like.
Just to say thank you. I appreciate all the time y'all spent with us, so thank you very much.
Okay, before you run away, any closing comments, questions for the applicant or staff?
I just have one question, and I don't know how pertinent this is, but I think you did a great job moving the pool, getting it out of there. But and I don't know about pools, but is the pool equipment that has to be there? Can that not be moved
It
closer?
can. I guess because we were, with that pool equipment being there, and we were hoping since it was already existing, and to get that part legalized, that we weren't going to mess with it, I guess. But if we need to, we're certainly, we can move it. If that's, but I guess that concrete pad, that equipment is already there. And we weren't going to make it any bigger or smaller, change anything about that. But if we need to, we're not opposed to moving it
And
somewhere.
that equipment is enough to handle this size of pool now as well?
Yeah.
Do we know, was there a variance needed when this pool was originally installed? Or is this something that changed?
So when this neighborhood was developed and final platted, there was only the 25-foot state buffer that was on the final plat. But now since they've made a modification to the property, they have to go by current Milton code.
So is that not grandfathered in since it's already existing?
It was, but once they made this modification to it, that erases it. Now they have to go by, or I'll let the attorney explain that.
Well, they're not modifying the equipment.
They would not have to move the equipment if they weren't making any changes.
Okay.
It would be allowed to stay. The request, as long as we're adopting or varying other issues, the variance would allow the property to be in compliance going forward such that they wouldn't be considered a non-conforming use. As it stands right now, it's a legal non-conforming use. This would allow it to be a conforming use that probably wouldn't have any impact in this particular case. In some cases, that distinction could have a bearing, but I don't think it would in this case.
So we can allow it if we choose as is, and that would be making it legal conforming.
Yes.
Or we could make a condition to also move that out, depending on what the pleasure of this board is.
And how long has the existing pool been there?
The existing pool has been there since 2005.
Okay,
Yeah, 2005.
Okay,
so about over
Right
15
before,
years.
yeah.
okay. Any final questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. I will make note that the public comment is closed, and I will open the floor for a motion and a second. I'll make a motion to approve V19-014 with the following conditions: that the proposed pool deck be constructed of pervious pavers. The project shall move forward according to the site plan by Georgia Classic Pools dated January 9th, 2020. That's it.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion regarding this motion?
Did you want to add in the movement of the equipment or not?
I didn't feel it was necessary.
Okay.
I didn't see where you would, I don't see a better place to put it.
It doesn't make sense to move it up to alongside the house.
Right.
Yeah, she had just said it would be easy to move it out of there.
But I didn't know the harm it's doing by sitting there.
I noted it was covered by vegetation, mature shrubbery and whatnot, screened anyhow, when I looked at the site.
It may result in more disturbance by trying to actually move it than you are leaving it where it's
Right.
at.
I think they did a fantastic job working with staff and adjusting the entire project to be mostly in compliance. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve with two conditions, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say aye. That motion passed unanimous. Thank you very much for following the process and working with staff. I think you have a good project ahead of you. Continue to work with them on permitting as well. The next item on our agenda is V19-015, which is 15770 Thompson Road. Would staff please present?
V19-015, 15770 Thompson Road, to allow a new public road for a subdivision to be 2 feet from an AG1 zone property, section 64-2397. This case was heard back at the December Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. The board wished to defer it to get the Tanglewood subdivision more, have the developer talk to Tanglewood to kind of get their input on it, and I believe the applicant did, and I see some members from Tanglewood here, so staff still recommends denial for this variance request, and that's pretty much it.
If the applicant is here and wishes to present? How are you? Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Board. For the record, my name is Richard Duncan. As Cody had already said, this was held from the last month, was deferred so we could get with the Tanglewood resident. After I presented it last month and showed what could be designed on it at the current zoning, I could still get the 7 lots just like I'm asking for the variance for. But the 7 lots that can do it as like it is makes lots 1 and 2 have 10-foot side setbacks, which one of them butts up to the Tanglewood subdivision and makes it more of an inconvenience for them. And that's one of the reasons two reasons we originally requested this variance in the first place. One was for the Mr. Camaro, which is to the east of the property, bought the property to kind of keep control of what was being built there, and he didn't want those houses. That's why he wants the road there, is so the houses won't back up to him, that he'd rather have the road on that side, and also it would conform better to the Tanglewood residents. It allowed those additional houses to be pulled farther back, and as requested, as I stated last meeting, I was even willing to make the rear setback 60 foot, which gives an additional 10-foot rear setback on them also. And we did meet right after the meeting last month with some of the Tanglewood residents that were here that would have liked to have been able to speak, but it was already too late by the time that they was able to. But we met, we discussed it, talked to them over the phone. We've met a couple times, and there are a couple gentlemen here tonight to speak in support of the variance. I think they have talked to other surrounding neighbors that touch this piece of property, and they all would prefer the variance to be approved than to be done based on how it can be done. It just allows them more flexibility. Even by moving the road 50 foot, it makes everything shift. It just makes everything a lot closer to their subdivision, and they would prefer the variance. But I'll turn it over. That's all I have in this to say right at present.
Before you do that, Cody, can we please get the site plans on the screen for the public?
I've got
As
one
well as
here.
for the record?
Or I've even got this little chip, too, if you'd rather do it on the chip or the... I do have that little chip thing, too, which I don't know which one's on it.
And if there is anyone here from, to speak in favor or against, please fill out a yellow public comment card. I don't believe we're in receipt of any letters of support or opposition prior to this meeting.
Like I said, as of last time that, I think even one of the board members, when we talk about the hardship, it's like the gentleman spoke earlier, this is an odd-shaped piece of property. It's a long, narrow piece. It's more so, a bit more of a hardship, more for the residents that join it than it is for the, but it is the way it's shaped, it's just a long, narrow strip, and it makes it difficult to do it, not putting the road right up against the adjacent east of the property, which the gentleman does own. That he owns both pieces, so that's the way he preferred to have it. So,
Okay, so Cody, this is the proposed variance, which would shift the road to be as close as 2 foot off the side property line,
That is correct.
and then the
All right, so I'm
as right
correct. This is the
option.
one that requires no variance, the one that is by right per the code.
Which you could see would take lots 1 and 2, turn them to be where they will legally be facing Francis Road, and therefore side yards setbacks instead of rear yard setbacks adjacent to Tanglewood.
Correct.
Okay? Thank you for that. I will just ask, do you have any more?
No, sir.
I would just ask you to think through the 4 variance considerations that we have pertaining to this case prior to your closing comments. Okay?
Mr. Chair,
Before I release, are there any questions for staff or the applicant before we move to public comment? None? Okay. Mr. Duncan, you can go ahead and have a seat, and we'll open it up for public
we
comment.
have 2 comment cards.
Okay, would you please, does state opposition or in favor?
No.
Okay. So I will do this the normal way, which is noting for the public's benefit, we will have a 10-minute total session, combined session of those interested in speaking in favor. So please be considerate of your other residents as well, followed by an equal 10-minute session for anyone here wishing to speak in opposition. So with that, I'd ask if you're here to speak in favor to please come forward and state your name, assuming you filled out a public comment card.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. The first,
Hang on,
Matt Fry?
Yeah.
Okay, there it is.
state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Matt Fry, 3155 Chenery Drive, part of the Tanglewood Estates. Operating under the presumption that the development is inevitable. The variance actually benefits the lots adjacent in the Tanglewood property. I am one of those lots. Having that 60-foot setback makes it much more desirable, which obviously would cause for the variance on that east side of the property as it is. And so, as one resident, I am in favor, again, under the presumption that the development is inevitable and there will be homes built back there, again, in favor for the variance of the road.
Mr. Fry, do you know what your lot number is in Tanglewood?
If you put it back up, I could tell you.
Okay, or maybe an easier way, first, second, third, moving into the development?
I was the second home in the development, and I am the fourth.
Fourth on the right? We can
Fourth
figure
on
it
the
out.
right, yeah.
1, 2, 3,
I'll tell
4.
you.
Okay, you have a pie-shaped lot.
I'm 23.
23, got it.
Yep.
Okay. Understood. In any case, in either case, do you understand that there would be a detention pond at the rear of your property?
Correct. I mean, it is, I guess for the record, it is my personal opinion that no development there would be favorable for us as a community. However, that being said, and being someone that's for free enterprise, being that it appears that is a developable plot of land, again, with the two options that are on the table, the variance option is the better, in my opinion, for the homeowners of Tanglewood Preserve.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? If you'd please come forward and state your name. And I'm assuming you filled out a public comment card?
Yes, I did. Michael Griffin?
Yes.
And he's only used up 2 minutes, so you're good.
I won't. Michael Griffin, the address is 3165 Shinnery Drive. If you're looking at the variance plan that he has, my lot borders lot 6 and 7 and the agricultural land that we're in question about on the east side.
Yes.
So from my standpoint, this is the better of the options that we have to bring the road on the east side of the property for the subdivision because it provides a larger buffer between the future planned homes and the currently built homes.
Okay, so to clarify, your lot is abutting.
My lot's on the north side
7.
of this, so I borders what would be lot 6 and 7, and then my land extends a little bit further and borders the agricultural land that's in question.
Okay. So either plan has minimal changes to the impact
minimal
of
to
your
me,
lot.
but I think from an overall neighborhood's perspective, having it to the east side provides a larger buffer between the homes.
Okay, so similar sentiment to Mr. Fry.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for coming forward to speak. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Please come forward. If you'd hand the public comment card to staff. And we're only 4 minutes into this, so you're good too.
All right. So I haven't actually talked to the developer yet, so I don't know if this is part of the plan, but Michael Groover, I'm lot 27 in Tanglewood, so it's 3115 Chinnery Drive. All right.
So the first lot in.
First lot in, yes.
Got it.
So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the lot itself, but there's a U-shaped aspen-type evergreen trees that are about 50 feet wide, or 50 feet tall, and it probably goes 100 yards one way, 100 yards, so it's east, I guess south, and then west side. So on the Tanglewood side, behind my property, there's about 100 yards worth of, I know we have an arborist here in Milton too, there's about 100 yards worth of very tall aspen evergreen trees, and I'm just, my comment is I'd like for them to be stay where they're at least on the Tanglewood side, because if they're 60-foot setback, they're basically right on the property line. So they shouldn't be removed. They wouldn't need to be removed in that scenario. So
Okay.
that's my comment.
You
I have a
say they're
picture
on
of
the property line. Who whose property are those trees on?
They're on the property of the developer.
Okay, so they're not on your property.
No, but I do have a picture if I can.
Okay.
We have pictures.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
they're-
you
So I'm
want-
just asking that maybe, from an arborist standpoint, for ecological reasons and for my reasons of not being, having to, necessarily, see someone's backyard, and it would probably, the homeowner, whoever bought the house on the other side would probably be really happy to keep the trees there as well.
So you're saying if we were to approve, you would prefer for the existing screening to remain and/or something
Right, on the-
equivalent to be placed?
Exactly.
Understood.
Yeah, because they're already there, and it's, I know that it doesn't affect the other people in Tanglewood, but it does ours,
Well, now, your lot seems to be the one that would be the most affected by either the variance or the non-approval of the variance, but that does not concern you. Your main concern is the trees?
I'm okay with the 60-foot. I like they said, I realize there's probably going to be some kind of development there at some point. We bought the house knowing that. So I'm just saying that if this is approved with the 60-foot variance the developer is speaking of, I would just, I would appreciate it if they would just leave the trees that would be, that wouldn't affect their, at 60 feet,
Right,
So they're probably 30 feet, and you're probably past the trees from my lot.
okay.
So,
Okay, thank you for coming forward to speak.
okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Okay. Then we'll move to a same equivalent 10-minute session for anyone here to speak in opposition to this application. Is there anyone? Yes,
I
sir.
do have one. Eric Edstrom.
If you'd please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening and thank you. My name is Eric, here I see Edstrom, E-D-S-T-R-O-M. I live at 120 Stone Orchard Court. So I am the development 2 lots over to the west. And if you could look at Stone Orchard Court predicated on the map, I would be the 3rd home on the Stone Orchard cul-de-sac, immediately adjacent to Mr. Kumar's primary, if I'm pronouncing his name properly, primary property, not the developed property in question. So my question is, or my purpose for speaking tonight is more informational for myself, but then also hearing some of the public comment from the neighbors to the neighborhood immediately to the east, if you will, skipping that one home and the current property in question. Nobody should buy it sounds like my 2 neighbors that spoke in favor of it were, well, if development is going to happen anyway, and we just basically have to understand and accept it. I'm not so sure that that's a palatable concept for any of us to accept. And the other opportunity that I overheard this evening is the fact that there will be a stationary pond that's going to reside there. And I don't want to get all, environmentalist on you and whatnot, but we do have a mosquito problem here in the state of Georgia. I don't want another retention pond that's unnecessary in order to breed and incubate mosquito larvae. So that's a problem. I have 4 dogs already, and they're on enough, properly managed medication as a preventative in order to take care of that. In addition, I also have mosquito mitigation treatment 9 months out of the year, maybe 10 months, depending upon if it's an additional month in terms of warmth or not. So that's an added expense to me. And I would just say that the subject property that we're speaking on, respective to the retention pond, but the immediate owner of the LLC is immediately to one house to the west. Why doesn't he just shave off 60 acres of that, not 60 acres, 60 feet or 50 feet of his own primary property in order to solve the problem? So move the road further west to his property as opposed to encumbering the folks that are in Tanglewood. So that's one suggestion I would like to offer here this evening. The other suggestion I think I would like to offer is, rather than being what developers do, is they like to consume all of the land at every opportunity in order to get and maximize the value out of it. I respect it. I understand it from, again, I'm a capitalist as well, so I understand that. He owns the property, but there are certain variances that we can potentially avoid as a consequence. So rather than go ahead and move the road over to that direction, why don't we keep in tradition with the Milton expectation in terms of development, which is have at least a minimum of acreage required and potentially offer a green space opportunity in lieu of adding the additional or asking for the buffer of the road, and just keep it green space. Wouldn't that be a better opportunity as opposed to development that we're speaking of here this evening? With that, those are my comments, and I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for coming forward to speak. I'm assuming we have more interest in speaking in opposition. We've got 4 minutes on the clock, so there's 6 minutes left.
Good evening. My name is Julie Zonner Bailey, and I live at 255 Hickory Flat Road, Milton, Georgia, 3004. Mine comments have to do with the precedent that it could set for other AG1 land. I certainly understand the commentary that was made by those that live immediately next to this land. A question that I would ask the BZA to have a conversation with staff about is whether the as-built would be the same number of lots if this variance were allowed versus if it were denied. So I don't know the property intimately enough to be able to say, indeed, it does. I know that the applicant said that it did. I think that the math needs to be validated so that we can compare that. I think that recognizing that a variance sometimes allows for greater density than if it was not allowed, I think that's an important consideration. I don't know the answer, but I'd ask that you please get that answer before any variance is approved. And then, generally speaking, I think it potentially sets a negative precedent to think about public roads being only 2 feet from AG1 land. I live on AG1 land. I personally wouldn't want a public road 2 feet from my land. So the consideration would be, in this instance, how is this unique? How does it meet those 4 standards that Chairman Chernick mentioned, so that we don't indeed set a precedent for other properties? I certainly also respect the gentleman that mentioned the desire to keep trees. We need tree coverage. So if you were to proceed with any approval, it would seem that some conditions that would require trees to be saved would be necessary. It seems also it was an interesting proposition that the last speaker mentioned, the probability, the potential of adding land on the adjacent property that would contribute to the total parcel, thereby eliminating the need for a variance. So just some considerations as I heard the discussions. Certainly appreciate the work that you do. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to speak in opposition of this application? Now, I'll just add a comment that the yield of the right to build is noted as 7 lots. The variance request is also for 7 lots. They're not of potentially equal value, but there's 7 and 7. With that, I'll make a note that we are complete with public comment and ask the applicant if you wish to, for closing comments before we move into our own motion.
Yeah, I did want to mention that it does the by right does meet all the setback requirements, and as one gentleman spoke about the trees on that lot, if we do it without the variance, it will be difficult to put any tree buffers because then you only got a 10-foot side setback, and there is an existing paved road there now that was going to be taking up and leaving the existing trees that are there. We're leaving that buffer that he's talking about. I think they're I can't remember the name of them. Leland cypress, I think is what they are down through there, and they are full grown, and they would stay just like they are. Wouldn't have to be bothered, wouldn't have to get in that zone. But like I said before, this is the main thing on this is the hardship is, like I said, as stated before, the size of it, the way that's shaped, the odyssey of it, and the inconvenience of being able to put the road in there under the standard right-of-way, it is more difficult. I mean, it can be done, and we'll do it. We will do it. We're going to develop it either way. But it just for everybody's purpose, I think, for the community, for the county, the city, and for the actual development itself would be better with the variance.
Okay. Before you take your seat, is there any questions for the applicant or for staff? Yes.
I've got a question for the applicant. On both the proposed as well as by right, between lot 6 and 7, is there a flag lot that's to the north of that where it says land lot 466?
I need my plat back. And I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So between lots 6 and 7, it appears that there's possibly an easement that leads to the cul-de-sac. Is that for flag lots that are behind? Or to the north of that?
No. I think it's just the way it's used.
A triangle shaped?
Yes, the triangle
No,
shape.
that was actually where Mr. Camaro actually had to have to make this where it would work 7 lots. We add additional that piece of property used to go at lot 7. If you look at lot 7, used to actually be on parcel to Mr. Camaro's other lot there, and we drew a straight line there. So that's the original. What you're looking at was how it was before. There is no flag there. They're all full setback, front setbacks, and everything. Everything's the street distance and everything's correct on it.
Is that going to be an easement, though? Even though the line's not erased, is that what your intention is?
No,
it looks
sir.
like you could do future tie-in to the property behind it.
Well,
off that cul-de-sac.
Well, there's a common area. There's a common area between lots 1 and 7. There is a common area between lots 1 and 7 that there's 2 flag lots next door behind Mr. Camaro. That's there. That on his property, on his existing.
Can we please put this by right plan on the screen? Yeah. And also, Cody, can you put the aerial and confirm the rear property line? We discussed this last month, but I want to make crystal clear that what we're looking at. Thank you.
And I'm only asking to clarify, you can do it either way with
Yes.
both plats.
Yes,
So
sir.
you still have the opportunity to put the easement there. I'm just curious what your intention is.
Easement where?
Between 6 and 7 for future tie-in to property behind it.
That's
If you were
not
wanting to
an
develop-
easement.
If you were wanting to, that's what I'm asking. So it is definitely not an easement.
It's not an easement, no,
Okay.
sir. It's either a well, not a lot line, but a property, the actual land lot lines. I think it's what you're looking at. It's a land lot line there.
I don't think it can be because it actually looks like it's going through the build area of lot number 7. So if you look at it on the screen, the line we're referring to has got the reference north 2 degrees, 19 degrees, 24.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That is not an easement. That's just like I said. I guess it was when they originally had the original line there from the existing property for Mr. Camaro's property, which is that 3rd lot back there. That was the original line there. But the actual lot line is the line that you see. The new one on lot 6 and the one closest to lot 6 is the lot line between lot 6 and 7.
Okay.
There is no.
So there are no easements
No, ma'am.
on any of these properties that you're currently discussing before us?
No, ma'am. No easements.
And if I could interject, I forgot to update this map, but I can easily show you what he's talking about. It looks like it's just surveyor error on this. If you look right here, this is the property that he wants to add in there. And you see right here, this property line, that's what you see right here.
Okay.
The surveyor just forgot to take it
To
off.
delete it all.
Put that aerial back up.
Yeah, sorry.
So, yes, there's a square lot, and then there's kind of L-shaped lot.
He's trying to cut it off.
And I wanted to clarify, where the red line is currently drawn, the subject property actually extends back
Correct.
to abut Tanglewood at the rear,
That's correct.
which I believe is lot 20, the gentleman spoke earlier. Okay,
I need clarification on this.
go ahead.
Looking at the red line, is that, are we including going back to the yellow line?
Yes, that's what Cody is saying. Can we please confirm that?
Yes, so what,
So the red line is irrelevant on this aerial shot. It should be the next parallel yellow line.
correct.
That's
So, yeah, so if you take this, and I can't really see with the blue pen.
I got one.
Take it, go right back here. This is the true subject property right here.
And that's where lots 6 and 7 fall on our plats.
Cody, can we also put up Exhibit A?
Which is,
Is that the variance?
that's the variance,
That's the
yeah.
variance.
Here it is.
One that's.
Are you okay with the plat? Oh, he's got it.
So on that exhibit, we're saying that's the same issue with the land lot line?
Correct, you can see it right here. Can you see how the building setbacks, it's encroaching into the building setbacks? More than likely, the surveyor forgot to take that layer off when he did
That
this.
one line.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, appreciate it.
Okay, are there any other questions for the applicant or for staff? Yes?
And maybe you cannot address this. I'm confused as to why those two other rectangular lots are not being developed right now. with
At the rear of Mr. Camara's existing house?
Correct.
You talking about behind the,
Behind the existing homeowner?
well, he bought that property originally as one big tract, and I guess when I wasn't involved in that originally when he did that, but that was just two lots that I guess when they whoever laid that out before he purchased it, I'm assuming that's how it was prior to him purchasing it. They had 3 lots there designed for it originally.
But there's no plan to develop on those two lots?
No, ma'am. There's
Now,
no
Kim,
plans.
as you recall, we discussed last month, Bob, as we discussed last month, there are those two pieces of property actually have a flag access easement to Thompson Road.
I don't remember that.
If you look there, I'm not clarifying.
Thank you for reminding me.
So there are 2 flag easements to those lots. So they will not be.
Where are the flag easements? Are they to the
Right
right?
along
As
the
you're looking at the aerial shot, to the right or the left of the house?
Jason will show you, right along the property line.
See these little strips?
So they will not be islands or landlocked.
So they're not landlocked. They're,
Well, if we approve the variance, won't those be on those?
this is parcel 1 and this is parcel 2. So this one leads to this one. And this one leads
Well,
to this
wouldn't
one
the
back here.
road then be on top of those?
No. Here's the road, you see, they're
You're
still
saying they
here.
could put driveways on those
They're
pieces?
still here with the road. Here's the road, here's those 2. So
And
they
the-
remain independent parcels,
And then you would just have like a really long driveway back to those?
right? Or
He could come off of this.
come off the road.
If he puts his driveway here,
Okay,
he could take this lot and this lot off of the main
okay,
here.
gotcha.
But again, as long as those are 30 feet, which I'm assuming they are, he doesn't have to get permission. He still has the legal right to
Right,
build these lots.
But if we deny the variance,
He can come off of here.
then they'd have to do a long driveway
That's
back
correct.
to those lots. Okay.
Correct.
So the density doesn't change?
Correct. And the development or non-development of those parcels to the right may or may not happen. It's
Yeah.
really not for us to debate so
Right.
much.
No, I just want to understand.
Fair. Any other questions for staff or the applicant?
As stated before last month too, I did state that we have already done soil analysis on we've already done all the boring soil analysis for all lots to be able to be buildable on. We've already done all that. We've already pre-done everything to make sure all that would work.
Is there anything you can say about the gentleman's concern about the retention pond?
As far
Or
as
detention pond, yeah.
I'm hoping that once it's laid out, that we can put an earthen dike. I prefer using earthen dikes. As large as it is, that should be feasible for this property to be able to put an earthen dike instead of a concrete pond. But until it's engineered, I cannot exactly state if it will be a concrete or an earthen dike. But based on what I'm looking at, the size of the pond, we got plenty to do that. And as far as, I guess, the gentleman about the mosquitoes, I don't have any expertise in mosquitoes. But you know, it'd be up to your staff or y'all's engineering to make sure it's built to y'all standards and codes.
Okay.
I don't make any shortcuts. I'll let you know that. I'm real cautious about water quality and water issues.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, are there any final questions? I'll note that the public comment is closed. You can have a seat. And the floor is open for a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to deny petition number V19-015, 15770 Thompson Road, which is to allow a new public road for a subdivision to be 2 feet from an AG1 zoned property.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny with a second. Is there any discussion?
I don't believe that hardship has been demonstrated in this situation. By right, the applicant can still build the 7 lots. And there's the adjacent property that, if was needed, was available, which further demonstrates that there isn't a hardship from that standpoint.
Anything from you, Brenda, raising it?
Yeah, we have codes for a reason, and I don't want to set a precedence as well.
I agree with both those, but I think the hardship's created on Tanglewood, not the hardship being on the developer. So the man's going to lose his Leland's on the lot 27 because the building line is only 25 feet. So if it was the other way, it would be 60, and then we could incorporate those trees. It's going to be hard to save those trees if you can build within 25 feet of the setback, or the building 25 feet of the building line. But it's also his legal right to build here, and whether he's bluffing and not planning on building if he doesn't get the variance, that we can't determine. But to the man's point about the retention pond, it's going to be there regardless, and him moving 50 feet onto his own property to create another drive so there's no longer a variance issue, the point is he doesn't have to do that. So he's got the legal right to do it the way it is. So my point is, it seems like a better way, less impactful way to do it with the variance than without the variance. That's what I'm looking at. So as far as setting a precedence, it's not that I think every development is subjective to the variables. And in this situation, I feel like the variables with Tanglewood, with the trees, with the way the lots lay out, it seems better. Can I ask why the board recommends denial? Staff, sorry.
Well, before we do that, because we actually are technically closed, the stated reasons from staff, as they were last month.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
It's, for one, in terms of the need for it being self-imposed, created by the applicant, because they, as you pointed out, can develop this without the need for a variance. And the second point was that they're not staff felt they didn't demonstrate that there was anything that was extraordinary or exceptional about the particular piece of property. And there was concern for the public road being 2 feet from an adjacent property, from the public good, as well as public safety. We talked about, last month, we talked about shifting that road to the east, actually moves it into the crest of a hill on Thompson Road.
Part of line of sight.
And part of line of sight. So that's what essentially the essence of what staff's comments were.
Yeah, to me, it just doesn't make as much sense to impact Tanglewood. So I would have to oppose, but it just seems more likely, makes more sense this way.
Okay. Anything further discussion? No. My points would be to remind us of the 4 variance considerations. This is certainly unique in terms of, juggling which is less or more and adjacent property owners is one consideration, but there are 4 in this case, and I don't see where the applicant meets the threshold for those 4 variance considerations. So any further discussion? All right, with that, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of denial of petition V19-015, say aye. Aye. Those in opposition, say aye.
Aye.
And motion passed 4-1 for denial. The next item on our agenda was V20-01, 13870 Haygood Road.
Chairman and the board, V20-01-13870 Haygood Road. We will not be listening to that case tonight. The design review board did not meet quorum earlier this month, so we have to push that to the February meeting.
Okay. So
that and V20-02, 2780 Bethany Bend, same situation. That was going to be on the docket for tonight, but they were not, the design review board did not have quorum, so we will not be hearing that as well.
I'll look for council's guidance on this. Would we be deferring these?
Yes, I would ask that you go ahead and make a motion formally to postpone it to the next meeting to give the DRB a chance to make its recommendation or comment.
Is postpone the term you want us to use?
Sure.
Okay. So then I would make a motion to postpone case V20-01 and case V20-02 to the next scheduled BZA meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of postponing those 2 cases, say aye. Aye. That motion passed unanimous. Item number 7 on our agenda is consideration of appeals and secondary variances.
We do not have any secondary variances.
Old business is 8A, to vote on the revised Board of Zoning Appeals bylaws, which we had our first reading of this last month, to remind everybody.
Yes, and to kind of give the board an update, this was kind of more of a administrative, just uptuning some minor details like changing the City Hall address, changing the time from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. And we also added in a new section that gives staff, or more in depth, is the Community Development Director to administratively defer an item if that's the only case being heard at that month's meeting. Were there any comments or questions, the board, when you looked over it? Very straightforward, hopefully.
Did anyone have any comments or feedback, concerns? It was mainly an administrative cleanup as well as the addition, as you noted. Let me just do one quick read of my notes, make sure I want to make sure that the sign considerations were clear, is one of the notes I had.
The sign. Were you made the sign variance consideration?
Yes.
The code. Rather than, correct. Sign here.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I believe that the requirements that you're referring to are listed in the code, not the bylaws. The
Yeah,
bylaws
that-
is just
thank you.
procedural, administrative kind of.
And that makes sense, because the original 4 primary variance considerations are referenced by code, not.
There by code. Which
That's
gets-
cleaner that way.
And that gets approved by council.
And that way you have it in one
or
spot.
if it needs modification, it needs council approval. These were just strictly procedural. Time of a
And we may
meeting.
have actually taken care of that several years, I think 6 or 7 years ago, to pull them out of the bylaws so that we didn't have to make changes to both when they were changed.
I recall that too. I think you're right, for that exact reason. Okay. Are there any further comments? So I would make a motion to accept and adopt these bylaws as proposed and amended.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of adopting these new bylaws, say aye. Aye. That motion passed unanimous.
Let me go ahead and make sure those get circulated, a clean version, and if you don't have, I don't know if I sent you clean and revised versions, we'll
Thank you.
coordinate.
Yeah, we'll get with the city clerk to make sure everybody has a clean copy.
Thank you. This was a big cleanup effort, as well as adding further powers to the community development director as well, which I think will make for a more efficient government. Number 9 is new business. We had one item here, which was summary of the 2019 Board of Zoning Appeals variances.
Yes, so me and the city architect, Bob Buscemi, did this with the design review board, kind of give the board kind of a summary of what y'all presented in 2019, and I want to say thank you for a great 2019. Y'all really grew as a board, and I appreciate that. You make my job much easier. So I just want to give you a summary. So we had a total of 15 variances come in 2019. We had 10 of those approved, 3 of those were denied, and 2 applications were withdrawn. To give you a summary, we had 2 sign variances. We had the North Main Street for CubeSmart, which you approved, and then tonight we had the Milton Athletic Club, which was withdrawn. Stream buffer variances, we had a total of 5. We had the Providence Road approved, the Darby Road approved, Saddle Springs Drive was denied, Gladwin Ridge was approved, and the Glenover Drive, which was heard tonight, was approved. Structures/pools located in the front, side, or rear yard, we had a total of 4. Haygood Road was denied, Bethany Road was approved, Bethany Church Road approved, and Laconia Lane was approved. Structures/pools located in the yard setbacks, we had a total of 3. Yeah, sorry. We had Westbrook Road, which was approved, 14905 Thompson Road, which was withdrawn, and then 14915 Thompson Road, which was approved. And then tonight we had the new road from a residential zone property, which was Thompson Road, which was denied. So just kind of give you a summary of what kind of variances y'all heard, and kind of get your feedback on what you approve, what you don't, kind of how you lean towards. So
Thank you for pulling that summary together. People might have a tendency to look at approval rates and denial rates, but I think tonight is actually a good example that there's underlying events or circumstances that may lead to a denial or lead to an approval. So, and all 3 of the cases that we heard tonight were deferred from last month to allow further iterations to happen, either to make it more conforming, less impactful. And I think that's the underlying thing of note to me, that we've done a much better job of that in working with city staff to have the applicants engage more with city to reach better outcomes versus trying to problem solve in this meeting. So thank you to staff for helping support us.
Thank you, staff, very much, because I think you've definitely reduced the amount of variances people have needed. So,
and some of them don't even come before us because you're addressing those during the process. So that's the hidden, I think, nugget from this 2019.
We actually had a 4-month period of no variances, because we were just kind
no
of
variances that officially came before us.
before you. A lot of them came in.
You were busy.
We were working them out.
Yeah, so it makes for a more efficient government, it makes for a more collaborative process with the applicants, and it makes for a better outcome. And thank you, honestly, for that. Jason,
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
do we have any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passed unanimous. We are adjourned.